All right. Hello, everyone. We just started this webinar for master's programs in science at Lund University, and I'm going to wait a little moment before I actually start the session because we want people to be able to join and hear everything that we say here. And people are still joining, I can see. My name is Johan Gunnarsson. I'm an international marketing manager at Lund University at the Division of External Relations. And we have applicant weeks going on with webinars almost on a daily basis, thematic for every subject area offered here at Lund University. And today we are talking about science. Now, this morning at 11 Central European time, we had a session with some science programs, and the remaining science programs are here now in the afternoon session between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Central European time. And I welcome you all and the program representatives in particular for joining us here today to talk about their particular programs. Before I ask the participants to introduce themselves, I would like to encourage the attendees to use the Zoom Q&A to ask questions directed to our programs that we can discuss in this session. So please don't hesitate to open your Q&A and write your questions to our program representatives here today. All right, I think that's it for by way of introduction. I'm going to ask the programs to introduce themselves, starting with Ulrik Mårtensson from Physical Geography. Ulrik.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ulrik Mårtensson, and I'm Director of Studies at the Department of Physical Geography and Ecosystem Sciences here at Lund University. We are currently running 5 different master's programs, one within the field of physical geography and ecosystem science, which has a general environmental orientation. And under that program, we also have a branch stretching out towards higher latitudes, environmental issues in colder climate. And then we have a program in GIS and remote sensing with a more technical aspect. And then we're also running a program together with international partners in Holland, Belgium, and Estonia, which also has an environmental orientation. And finally, we are running a distance-based program in geographical information sciences. And that is a lot, of course, 5 different programs with different orientations. You are naturally welcome to get in touch after we close this session if you want to look us up at our webpage and send us email. We'll try to answer your questions as far as possible. And we have a very international environment at our department, drawing roughly 70% of the students from environments outside of Sweden. So it's a very, very international environment that you will end up in if you study with us. Thank you.
On my screen, Lovisa Andersson representing chemistry.
Hi, Lovisa Andersson. I represent the 3 chemistry programs, synthetical and analytical chemistry, physical chemistry, as well as biochemistry. And I'm from the Department of Chemistry. I just take it very short so everybody can introduce themselves.
All right, thank you, Lovisa. Next up on my screen, Dan Hammarlund from Geology.
Yes, hello, I'm Dan Hammarlund, and I'm the Director of Studies in the Department of Geology. And we run one single master's program in geology, but we have 3 different recommended study paths: bedrock geology and quaternary geology, and also biogeology. So that is based on combinations of different courses that can be chosen very flexibly within this program. So we have ample opportunities for students to tailor their own combinations of studies, basically. And we have also an international environment here with a lot of research carried out in a broad spectrum of geology. So lots of combinations and connections between research and education. And you're also welcome to contact me if you need further information after this session.
Thank you, Don. I see that we have some questions coming in the Q&A. Please keep them coming. Audience members, you can write your question at any point, and we will handle those after our panelists have introduced themselves. Christina Ledje. You're muted, Christina.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Christina. I prefer Tina. I'm the study advisor in molecular biology, or for molecular biology students. And I represent one program in molecular biology, but we have 4 specializations. The general one, immunology and infection biology, which is a new specialization, as well as microbiology and biotechnology. And the last one is molecular genetics and biotechnology. Yeah.
Thank you, Tina. Finally, we have Lotta Persmark representing biology and bioinformatics.
Okay, hi all. So I'm study advisor for biology and bioinformatics students at the Department of Biology. We have the program in bioinformatics. It's very popular especially among the international students. And we have the biology with 6 different specializations, 1 general biology, then we have aquatic ecology, conservation biology, what more we have? We have evolutionary biology, we have plant science. So those are the specializations within the biology. So it's 6 different specialization that you can apply for, but they are individually a little bit similar to each other, and it's pretty easy to kind of change within the programs. And you're most welcome for more information about this and other questions about my programs.
Thank you, Lotta. I think that final thing you said was particularly interesting, that you can switch between programs. Because I have to apply to a program, right, and be admitted to a certain program, but then if I discover that another track was perhaps more suitable?
Yes, because we want our students to get the most out of their studies, and it's sometimes you might change your interest, and the application is pretty long before the start of the program. And so we have a very flexible program, I would say. It's hard to describe exactly how it works, but for instance, if you start off with conservation biology and you understand, no, I want to go for the plants, so you can kind of switch. We have compulsory courses, we have optional courses, so it's kind of, yeah, you always need to meet the requirements, the required courses, so to say, but then there is a flexibility to take optional courses. And that's way you can, for this, it's not extremely common that you change, but this year we had students starting off with plant science and ended up with bioinformatics, for instance, because all the courses are included in one program, and that's how you can change.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it is flexible, and we want to make sure all students get what they really want.
Right. So that is biology and bioinformatics. But what about, I think the other subjects here, geology, chemistry, molecular biology, and also you, Ulrich, at physical geography, you said you have different specializations. Is it also free for students to move between these after they have been admitted to one particular specialization? Or do you have to take the program that you have been admitted to, Ulrich?
Well, of course, we do also like to be flexible and accommodating students that have started in one program and want to switch to another program. But it's then more a switching operation. So we don't have all the courses within the same program. They are in different programs. So then you must switch from one program to another. But as all the programs, they have a certain amount of elective courses. The coursework that you have done starting in one program will not be lost when you switch to another program. You can count those courses towards your degree as well. It's a little bit of paperwork, but it's not really very complicated.
Okay. We have actually here a question from Michelle to Tina, I think, because this person is seems to be a current student, maybe in biomedicine at bachelor's level here. Is it possible to go from that program at bachelor's level to the master's level in molecular biology? Is that something you're prepared to answer?
Yes, if you graduate from the biomedicine bachelor's program, you are eligible to apply for our master's program. So that's possible, definitely.
Okay. So they have, because they studied in Lund already, so all the completed courses are visible in Lund, of
Yes.
course, and that should be enough for the application.
Yes.
How many students do you admit every year to the molecular biology program and different specializations?
So we admit many students, but the number of places are around 15 per specialization.
15 per specialization. Okay. What about the other programs? Are you comfortable talking about numbers? Dawn, how many students do you have in the geology program?
We can also admit quite a lot of students, but we usually operate with rather small courses. And I would say that on average, I think our master's courses are somewhere around 15-20 students.
15 to 20 students. Chemistry, Lovisa, how many students do you have?
It's the same for us. We can admit up to 15 students per specialization, but some courses can also be taken as free courses. So they will be read amongst, for example, physicists and stuff like that. Yeah, and some molecular biology as well. So
It seems to me when I listen to you all, it seems that the course selection seems quite flexible within many science programs. Is that correct? I mean, you're admitted to a program, yes, but then within the program there are many options for students to decide. Dawn.
Yes, we also have a lot of flexibility, but there are certain entry requirements for specific courses. For example, if you want to study our paleontology course, you need to have some basic paleontology from your bachelor's. And also, if you want to go into the quaternary geology path, you need to have something from your bachelor's about ice ages and glacial deposits and such. So we do such assessments as well. But otherwise, we have a lot of flexibility, and you can also change pathways within your program within those limitations.
Okay. Any of the other programs want to weigh in here? What's it like in biology, Lotta? How much freedom is there to choose courses?
It's 30 credits at our master programs are totally free. They can be in any subject and in any level. It can be at bachelor's level. A lot of our students in biology take courses in physical geography department, like GIS, for instance, very useful for all biologists, and other courses that they offer that suits our students excellently. So so it's very common to kind of take, and also for some students choose courses at other universities. So we have a question here about exchange studying abroad, but I think it's more common maybe to take a course from another university in Sweden. It's very flexible there as well, as we offer, most courses are offered as freestanding courses.
Okay, but then you're not talking about exchange. You're talking about that you do that independently from the program
yes,
here.
You do it independently, but you always discuss with your study advisor or program coordinator whether this course can be included in the program as part of the curriculum, part of the degree.
So it seems to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there seems to be, when a student enters one of your programs, they do require quite a lot of study counseling, right? I mean, to sit down with you and say, this is where I want to go. How do I reach that goal? What courses do I need, and how do I apply, etc., that you need to help them very hands-on. Is that correct?
Yes, it's very much individual study plans for all our students, and all the autumns are kind of spent discussing with our new students on the master's program how they can reach their goals, which courses to include, and so on. So it's very much individual study counseling and study plans.
Nice. It's the same in molecular biology, that you would sit down with each student and try to figure out what it is that they want to achieve within this program, and then you help them select courses based on that.
Yeah, I try to have individual talks with each student the first semester, if possible. And it's quite flexible. It's of course depending upon the number of places. There is a limited number of places in the courses because of labs and other compulsory activities. But if possible, it's very flexible. And the most common is that you change from a specialization to the general program.
Okay. So you're talking about labs, Tina, and I assume that in many of the science programs, students can expect to spend time in labs. Lovisa, maybe chemistry comes to mind here. How much time do students spend reading books, and how much time do they spend mixing chemicals in the lab?
So this all depends on which course they have. I mean, in the physical chemistry specialization, they tend to be more reading in the courses, and for example, the organic chemistry, they have 21 days of labs. So it all depends on, you still have to read the books, even though you do some lab works, but yeah, quite some laboratory elements. Yeah.
Okay, Tina.
Maybe we should say, and it's the same for all our programs, that you take one course at a time, usually, and then everything is included in that course. So you have lectures, labs or excursions, seminars, everything is included, and you can concentrate on one subject at a time.
Right, so you have one course, then you complete the course, and then you take the next course.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's very good point. Maybe some people would find that a bit unusual compared with their home countries, but that's a good point. Dawn and Ulrik, what about, do you have laboratory work as well in your programs, or it's more field work? So to say?
Absolutely. I would like to emphasize that geology is a subject, and I think also physical geography, and especially geology, as I speak for that we need to see these geological deposits and the geological processes in reality. So we have a lot of emphasis on field-based education, and we take our students to field courses and excursions where we see these deposits, and southernmost Skåne is very well equipped for these purposes, and we have a variety of different geological phenomena and deposits to see. So this is a very important component of our education, and also, of course, laboratories, seminars, and more hands-on based teaching forms where we meet the teachers in small groups.
I have a question here related to that for laboratory skills. How can students learn how to properly use and behave in a laboratory? Is that something that we teach them, or we expect that they have these skills before they join a master's degree program? Who would like to? Lovisa, what do you say?
We expect the students to have some sort of laboratory experience. The more, the better, like everything. for both the specializations of synthetical and analytical chemistry, there will be a lot of labs, as well as the biochemistry courses. So if you're not familiar with that, you might be prepared that you will need to do some laboratory works, and maybe ask for some advice in beforehand, and ask the teachers as well, how can I prepare myself the best?
Okay, thank you. We have yes, Tina?
I can just add that we are aware of that a few students don't have any experience in the lab, but I know you have been watching and you know about the labs, but maybe you didn't do the lab yourselves, but you will get introduced, so it should be okay.
Lotta?
I just want to add one thing about all the field work and excursions and so on that we are doing in many of the programs, biology, geology, and physical geography. All or most anyway of the stuff we are doing is free of charge. I think it's important point to make. So it's kind of included in the courses. You probably, if you have to have overnight stays, you pay for your own food, of course, but the traveling and so on are free. Might be some differences between the programs, but I think this is what we use in the biology anyway.
Right, but Dawn said you in their subject area, Skåne is there's a lot of interesting things and places to go. Is it the same for you, or do you travel further afield, or is the local region here in southern Sweden enough for the needs of your the programs? No traveling outside Skåne? Doesn't seem like it. Ulrik?
We have a field course for northern Sweden to present our students to the more harsher kind of vegetation landscape forming processes that you can see up there. But in general, we stick to overday excursions with Lund as a base. But the physical geography has been said by geology and biology, it's also very field-based. Now students, precisely as the geology students, they need to see things live on site in order to understand. But we also have a lot of stuff going on, particularly in our computer labs. We are running climate models to predict climate change in the future. We are running ecosystem modeling in order to predict the implications of climate change on ecosystem and biodiversity. And of course, for the GIS courses, there is also a lot of practicals in the computer labs.
Okay. Do you need programming skills to join before you join the program, Ulrik, or is it something you can learn in the program, or you don't need any programming skills at all?
Actually, the first course in the GIS and remote sensing program is a programming course. So there you will be provided with quite good advanced level programming, but for the other programs you don't really need it. You will be taught to use some more simple program library systems such as R or MATLAB or things like that, but you don't do that much of programming yourself. And when needed, we provide the knowledge.
Okay, thank you, Ulrik. Because we have a question here, it's actually for, say, biology and bioinformatics, so Lotta. What coding languages do we need to know if we want to join bioinformatics, and what level?
Level is hard to say, as we don't require any prior knowledge in programming, for instance, but it's always useful to know some language, and it really doesn't matter, I think, which program you choose, because I mean there are similarities between the programs, and on the courses we learn Python and R, and you will learn it from the basic, but we always recommend students to learn some. If you don't have any prior knowledge in programming, please do some self-studying or online course or something like that. It will make it so much more easy for you to get into the stuff you're going to learn when starting the program.
So at least a basic level course in, for example, Python would be.
Yeah, that would be very, very good. Definitely recommendation.
Okay, thank you. There is another question for bioinformatics here. I have seen that the study path for students with biology and computer science background is the same, even if their knowledge is going to be very different.
Yes.
How do you manage students with such different backgrounds in one program?
Well, the students have problems or find it hard to kind of. It's hard to say, but if you don't have any prior knowledge in, say, molecular biology, genetics, you will have problems to understand everything that is going on and what is explained. So we also advise those students to do some self-learning in those fields. As I said before, for the biology students with no prior knowledge in programming, it's tough learning. It's many hours in the computer lab and doing all the stuff you have to do all the assignments and everything. But it's a pretty tough program, actually.
Bioinformatics.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But can I just ask, because if you apply to this program and you say, okay, you fulfill the requirements and you're a good student, we want to admit you, but before they come to Lund, do you give them any instructions on how to prepare? Yes. Or is it after they arrive in Lund?
No, it's prior to arrival, and we as soon as the students are accepted, we add them to this platform, the learning platform Canvas, and there we give instructions on how to prepare for start of the program. And especially for the bioinformatics students, they spend like the first 30 weeks of the program together in a computer lab, and of course they teach each other. So that's a little bit of the thinking of this program, that you come together with a little bit different background, but you learn together and teach each other, kind of.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Here is a question that we often receive from students, especially international students, and they want to know if before they apply to a program, that they have to contact maybe a professor or a program director to let them know what they're interested in. Is that something that you would recommend generally, or not recommend? Dawn, what do you say? Would you rather that students contact you before they make an application, or does it make any difference?
It's of course possible, but it's certainly not needed. I mean, you will get to know the teachers when you come here. We have a very much an open door policy, and you will see that there is a lot of possibilities for the students to even socialize with the teachers and get to know them quite well. And over the course of the first year or so, most students find their, so to say, favorite subjects, and then they develop that together with one or a few teachers, and then that forms then the basis for their degree thesis work and such.
Lovisa, what's it like in chemistry? Yes, Tina, I'm going to give you the word after Lovisa. Do students need to reach out before they make an application, or is it just make an application and then we'll assess this? Yeah,
as Dawn said, it's not necessary at all, but you are most welcome to do so if you need to, if you feel the need.
Okay, Tina, what do you say?
No, it's not necessary at all, but I can reveal that when I read their motivation letters, I get quite impressed if you have, if you know about the research going on at Lund University. So that's a tip for you.
That is a very good tip, because some of the programs represented here, they do require that students explain why they have chosen a particular program. Is that something you all collect from your applicants? I know some do, some don't. How important is this kind of more personal information about a student? How important is this, Lotta, when you look at an application?
I mean, part of the selection is done on which we call the summary sheet, which includes letter of intent and so on. So of course it's important, and we do look at them. They are not very large. We have a summary sheet with a restricted number of words that we don't want the students to exceed, but it's important, and it's part of the selection. And I would say, I think why students ask if you should contact a supervisor before, it's for some programs you actually choose your master thesis at the start of the program, and in our programs you always start off with taking courses, and usually for 1 year. So compulsory or optional courses for 1 year. And then you choose your master thesis after that. So, I mean, you're most welcome to contact program coordinators or study advisors for information about the program, but not for the thesis you're going to do. But as Tina said, of course, have a look on the research going on at our department, because that's the master thesis is a big part, sometimes up to half of the study time. A lot of the students do a master thesis for 1 year, and if you don't find the research group here at uni, maybe you should think of another university, because the master thesis is a very important part of your coursework.
Okay. We have a question here for Tina, molecular biology. How can I know the specific research that is currently going on in the department of molecular biology to better help me inform the thesis? This person is talking about the thesis, but maybe they just want to get to understand what is happening right now in the labs at Lund University in molecular biology. So how can I find this information?
At the Lund University webpage, there is information about what research is going on. So check that and look for molecular biology, life science, biomedicine. Also biochemistry is actually allowed within molecular biology. And there are many research groups.
Right. So I have a kind of a related question. So when students are here, they are in your programs and they become interested in a certain research area that is going on. How can they is there a way for them to join maybe a research group as an assistant or as some type of, to learn more and get more involved in a research project, for instance? Lovisa?
In chemistry, the students that are admitted to our program, they can also do something called project work, where they can be alongside a research group, or they can be out in the industry as well, for 15 credits or 30 credits. It depends on what they want to do. And some students want to have it for more laboratory work, but also want to know more about the fields within chemistry, what they want to work with later after their graduation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have a question here from Karina about exams. And I mean, exams can be done in many different ways. Dawn, at the geology department, can you give us some examples of how exams are offered? Is it oral exams? Is it sit-down written exams? Is it home exams? What types of exams?
At our master courses, we have a mix of ordinary sit-down written exams and some take-home exams as well, with access to all the literature, where you formulate your own answers to the questions in a slightly longer way. So there's a mix of examination forms, and they are also sometimes based on project work, so that you write a small project task, usually individually, but also sometimes in small groups.
Okay, Ulrich, what about physical geography? How do you offer exams to your students?
I guess we have similar system as geology, as our topics are quite close. So we normally have a smaller written exam, and then project work, practical work. In the programming course, for instance, you are supposed to write some code during the exam that is then evaluated. So hand-ins and presentations, oral and written presentations of group work or individual work, and then classical written exams.
Group work you mentioned here, Lotta. Can you explain first? Group work is common in Swedish university.
Yes, it's very common. It is very common. I think in those kind of field-related subjects like biology and geology and physical geography, it's very, very common. And for our courses in ecology, you often do the exam kind of not in the end of the course, but maybe 2 weeks before the end of the course, and then the last 2 weeks you only do project works. So it is very, very common. It's part of the curriculum, and it's graded, like individually.
Okay, even though you participate in a group.
Yes. It depends. Some are graded individually, some are graded kind of just a pass. So we could maybe mention that how our students are graded.
Yeah, sure.
It's pass or pass with distinction. That's the levels we have for the science faculty.
Okay, what happens if you don't pass?
Okay, if you don't pass, there is a re-exam. That's for the formal examinations, and if you don't pass that time, there's re-exams in the resits in the summertime, and then if you don't pass that time either, you can always re-register for a course and do the normal exam for the next time the course is given. So always 3 occasions for a written exam.
Okay.
And for assignments, it differs a little bit between different departments, I think. But usually it's, I mean, if you're delayed for some reason, you can always hand in a report or something a little bit late. We are not extremely strict on times, I think. I don't, what do you say?
No.
Same.
You would just agree?
No, some teachers are very strict, so that's not general.
Okay, so we can't take for granted
No.
that it will be like that. So we have to figure out, depending on the teacher and the class. But one question we do get quite often is, because people may be familiar with American style higher education, with with midterms and finals and stuff like that. Is this something that exists in Sweden, Lovisa? Midterms and finals, or do we have one course and then we finish the course with an exam and then we have the next course?
Exactly. We have one course, as Tina said in the beginning. We have one course and then we do everything in that course and then we end it. Usually it's a 10-week course, 15 credits.
Okay, so you don't have 7.5 or the 5-week course at the chemistry, or both?
We have, but usually we have 15 credits.
Okay, so that means in one semester just 2 courses then?
You can, yeah, exactly.
Okay, what about geology and physical geography?
That's the same for us. All our courses are 15 credits. So we do 2 courses per study term. So you do at least, you have to do, let's see now, 5 of those, and then we do a 45 credit degree project. And also I'd like to say that regarding the possibility of participating in research activities alongside your studies, we haven't formalized that here, but we have a lot of room for elective courses, and within that package of courses we can also offer an internship course, which can be done externally at a company or authority or organization, but it can also be done at our departments in collaboration with a research group. So that's also a possibility. That's a 15 credit internship course, and I think the other departments can offer something similar too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard Ulrik talk about this also, right? You have an internship opportunity.
We have an internship 10-week course that you can do basically any time during the whole year. We noticed that many companies and authorities, they are more keen to have interns during summer semester. So that course is actually running all the year round, and it's flexible, so and personalized for the individual student. And when it comes to modules and stuff like that, we're also running mostly on 15 credit modules, except for the distance program and for the GIS and remote sensing program, where we have more of 7.5 and 5 credit modules.
Okay, thank you, Ulrik. We have a question for biology. This is more like a general question, I suppose. I believe often a student would like to know or estimate their chances of getting admitted before they make an application. So they want to know how many applied last year and how many were admitted. And this is only natural. Sometimes it's difficult to answer, on the spot. But do you have an idea how many students?
The different programs are different popular. Bioinformatics is very popular and hard to get into. For biology, we don't have so many applicants per place, so per seat. But not all eligible students are elected. So we also always have students on the waiting list that don't get into the program.
Right. So you have to make a selection of a
we have
group.
to make, yes, we have to make a selection. So please write a good summary sheet. That will increase your chances.
Yes, right. And just related to that as well, we have kind of mentioned it, but the importance of understanding the selection criteria, I think for prospective students who want to know what we look at when we admit students, that you have to check the selection criteria for each program, because it may be slightly different. Sometimes it could be just your academic merits. Sometimes it could be a combination of academic merits and also the summary sheet or the personal letter that some programs may demand. Okay, so here we have a rather specific question. I don't know if we can answer this. This is a plant biology graduate, and they did their undergraduate thesis research on the production of biodiesel from microalgae. They want to do a biology master in Lund and conduct research in biofuel production. Lotta, do you know much about biofuel?
I don't think I would choose a program in plant science in that case. I think I would go rather for a programming in biotechnology, either in the engineering program or maybe molecular biology. Okay, you can get some courses in molecular biology also from the plant function program, but I think you need some large scale or biochemistry maybe. I think that's more suitable if you want to work in this field.
Okay, Tina, we kind of hinted at molecular biology as an option for this student, perhaps, if they want to work to develop biofuel. Are there any courses in your programs that are dedicated to this, or should they look at chemistry instead? Actually,
yes, I think they work on that at the in biotechnology. So look at the engineering school and the program in biotechnology or biochemistry, maybe.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. Biology is popular today. How many applicants? Okay, we already took that question.
Yeah,
but yeah, Lotta.
I mean, I think for the conservation biology, just as an example, I think we have about 100 applicants per year. Maybe 70 of these are eligible. Maybe we select 50 of these, and then we end up with around 20 students. So that kind of scale it is. But also, as others said before, number of students on the individual classes or modules are usually more than 20. So as a student from different specialization combine courses together. So usually there are somewhere between 10 and 50 students on the modules on different classes.
Right, and that's an important point, that you would take classes or take courses with students coming from other programs. So you don't have just your own classmates for the entire duration of the program. Lovisa, what's it like in chemistry? You have 3 specializations to begin with, but then are in certain courses, can also other students join? If they're eligible?
Yeah.
Right.
We have the physical chemistry program. You can also be admitted if you have a bachelor in physics or mathematics. Depending on what kind of physics and mathematics you have taken, but that's a possibility, yeah.
Okay. So I would like to ask you guys about the connection between research and education, because we often say that they go hand in hand here, and the teachers are researchers, etc. How important is it, Tina, that the link between research and education at Lund University?
It's very important, and I think a majority of our students are interested in research, and about 50% of the graduates from the master's program continue with PhD studies. So it's very important for the students to meet researchers, lecturers all the time.
50%, you say. Is that similar in geology, chemistry, and well, the other programs represented here today, more or less? I mean,
it's certainly lower within geology. I think I would guess somewhere maybe around 30% or so. Many of our students go into the consultancy company system, or into authorities or international work somewhere. So that probably differs a bit. But we have a very strong link between research and education, and all our teachers are involved in research to some extent. And that, I think, is key to our success.
Okay, Lovisa?
It's around 50%, more or less, yeah.
Around 50%. And then students can go, I mean, if you have a master's degree from Lund University in science, you can go almost, I would assume, anywhere in the world to pursue a doctoral level education, and not just in Lund, even though some graduates do stay in Lund, I suppose, depending on the opportunities that may be there. But where do students go if they don't stay in Lund? Lotta, where can students go?
I think it's especially bioinformatics. They are very strong in moving on to PhD studies, and I would say Sweden, of course. Lund is the most common place to end up. Other universities in Sweden, the Nordic countries, Northern Europe, that's the most common places. Yeah.
Is that because that's, the student is more kind of, how can I put it, competitive here as a candidate for a PhD position, or is it?
I think the wages and it's the best opportunities, the best. I mean, in Denmark, a PhD student is for 3 years, and you have really good wages. Same comes for Norway. I think Sweden is pretty good. And in many countries, you have scholarships when you for the PhD positions, and you have to do a lot of teaching to make up for your own wages. So it's just a better offer to have a PhD in Nordic countries and Northern Europe than other places.
The conditions are
are much better here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We have a couple of quite detailed question here. Eman Yusuf, I'm a biochemist. If I apply for biology, do I need to be have been published? Have they to make publications before they are admitted to a master's degree program? I am mid-career in lab work.
No.
No.
No, I mean, you don't need to have published anything before you apply for a master's. But on the other hand, I don't know if a student from biochemistry is eligible for the master's program in biology, because you probably lack organism biology and ecology. So yeah, I can't really answer clearly on that question.
Yeah, so Aman, you have to check the entry requirements of the actual programs before you make your application, even though you may have certain practical experience. For molecular biology, no, this is also a question that's quite specialized. Is there any ongoing research in Mycobacterium tuberculosis? I guess tuberculosis bacteria.
I'm sorry, I don't know. Please email me and I will check it up. I think there is, but email me.
Tuberculosis, yes. If you have the participants here today, very highly specialized question about research and also the program content, you are, as I understand, welcome to contact our representatives here so they can clarify before you actually make an application. Okay. There is a question here from Jaya. Hi, I'm interested in volunteering an internship in biology. Is volunteering an internship, does it count as work experience when you make your application, when you fill out the summary sheet?
Yes, internship would be regarded as similar to a proper work experience.
So practical, basically.
Practical
experience.
work, yeah. NGO work, volunteer work. It's all the same.
Right. And on that note, about the summary sheet, how many of your programs here use summary sheets? You have summary sheets, not chemistry. Do you have any advice for the summary sheet? Because I mean, a student, they will have their academic merits. They can't do anything about those, but they can probably be persuasive in the way that they have written their summary sheet to some extent. Do you have any advice, Ulrik, for students who are sitting with a blank template and they're thinking about what should I write, what should I highlight, what would make a candidate to your program stand out?
Well, I mean, that's of course a very, very difficult question to answer, but the aim of the summary sheet is that you should be given an opportunity to demonstrate how interested you are in the topic. And if you then can convincingly motivate that you are actually very interested and that you are burning for a certain topic, maybe you can spice that with demonstrating, as Tina was into. I've seen on the department homepage that you are doing research and this, and I really would like to pursue an education that can take me to a position where I can start doing my research in this field. Also, of course, demonstrating if you have as one of the questions asked here, I've been volunteering with this and this that relates to the education program. I have some working experience. I'm maybe a member of some kind of association. That I think is part of a good motivation letter. Maybe explaining a little bit about your personal feelings, not being too business-like, but you should be personal in the personal statement.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Don, what do you say? How can a student stand out in the summary sheet when you look at the...
I certainly agree with what Dudluk said. I mean, show your interest and enthusiasm and explain to us why you really would like to come to Lund and what you may have seen at our department web pages and so on could contribute to that.
Right. So it's a very good idea for applicants to first have a good look at the department webpage to understand what is happening and what we do, what we specialize in before they prepare their material, so that they have a clear vision, I suppose, and can convey that.
And I can add, I think, I mean, I always tell the bachelor students, because I have more information towards bachelor students, they are closer to us, but have a good look on what the program, what are the compulsory parts, what are the eligible parts, what do I get as a student? Do a proper research on what you get on within the program before you choose a university and a program.
Yeah, very good. Lovisa, you do not have a summary sheet or a personal letter when students apply. So you just select student. I checked your selection criteria just now, and you are just looking at the academic merits, basically. And
the grades of each courses as well.
But do you look at the total, like a GPA, or the courses that are relevant for your program?
The GPA. The
GPA.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is no other way for a student to kind of demonstrate that they are suitable. They have to have just a very strong academic background. That's it. Okay. Thank you. So we have a question here from Lynn. Kind of practical question about biology, general, for the summary sheet. Do you expect these summary sheets to be handwritten? Because it is noted that the sheet should be printed out and scanned again.
No, I think that information is kind of old. We had some problems with students that didn't save them, and they just uploaded something without any no, so that's old information. So just as long as you save the document with all the correct, or with all your information, and check that carefully before uploading, it's no problem. So don't handwrite the summary sheets.
No, exactly. Just download it, fill it out on your computer, save it as a PDF, and upload it to your application account. University admissions.
Yep.
All right. So I think we're actually, well, there's another question came in about contacting professor in laboratories to work on a project before applying. That is not necessary, but you can still do research and see what the professors in the program, what kind of research they are conducting. But there is no need to contact them before you make an application. Tina.
Yes, you're right in that. Can I say something else?
Yes, of course.
I think it's general for all our programs, and we didn't talk about it today. But in Sweden and at Lund University, it's quite informal. You get to know your professors. The classes in science are quite small at the master's level. And I think, I hope and think you will like our system. And it helps that you only study one subject at a time, so you can concentrate on one subject.
Thank you very much. I think we're probably going to end there. That seems like a good ending point for this session. It's 3 p.m. already. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ulrik, Lovisa, Dawn, Tina, and Lotta for joining the session today to share some information and knowledge about their respective programs. and also the attendees, of course. We want to wish you the best of luck if you decide to make an application, or if you have applied already. Hopefully you can get an admission offer from Lund in the spring. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thank you all for attending, and best of luck to the applicants. Tack så mycket.